You're watching Gearz, brought to you by LNC Truck. Keep 'em on the road.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. You know, a while back we started a build-up on a modern version of one of the most iconic and unique vehicles of the 1960s, Bill Thomas's Cheetah. Designed to be a Cobra killer in the 1964 race season, the Cheetah was as wild as the 60s themselves. With its Corvette drivetrain, gull-wing doors, a mid-engine design, and a ridiculously short wheelbase. Blindingly fast and a challenge to drive, the curvy Cheetah immediately became a racing legend in the sports car crazy mid-60s by being clocked at over 200 miles an hour in a race at Daytona. Unfortunately, the Cheetah disappeared almost as quickly as it appeared, leaving many to wonder what they'd look like today if the program had continued. Well, we started answering that question when we picked up a car from Cheetah Evolution and started building it. The Cheetah Evolution car has all of the shape and the unique style of the original Cheetah. It's kicking out, it's kicking out! But it has a modern tube chassis and Corvette suspension, and room for things like air conditioning and 6-speed transmissions and modern engines, giving it the true Cobra killing ability that it was originally intended for. Now, at this point, a lot of people have been wondering where the Cheetah is. Well, a while back, we shipped it off to the boys at Charlotte Speed Shop, where they've been smoothing out the body, getting it ready to paint. Take a look. Charlotte Speed Shop is the creation of owner Anthony Kutis, and his dream was to not only offer quality collision work for daily drivers, but also offer top-level custom work for the enthusiast and the hot rodder.
We do the insurance, collision, industry stuff, and then the other half is the custom cars restoration that we do. Charlotte Speed Shop likes to take on a lot of the different projects, like the 61 Rolls-Royce with the LS setup. We really enjoy other projects that some people just don't want to do because they are a little more challenging and there's some engineering that has to go into those. That's what I like to specialize in. I like doing really different, oddball stuff.
Designed to be an all-around shop that specializes in everything from sheet metal repair to complete restorations, Charlotte Speed Shop is also known for their incredible fiberglass work, making them the perfect choice for the fiberglass-bodied Cheetah. For example, remember the quarter vents that I made by shortening some 65 Mustang fastback vents? Well, the first challenge that Anthony faced was grafting those into the body.
Grafting the quarter vents into the Cheetah goes back to substrate preparation. It has to be right. Once again, using the right bonding agents to make sure everything stays where it's supposed to be and not ring out or shrink or even come off the car later on after body work.
The hood also had some vents that needed to be blended in as well. After that, the next step was fitting the doors and the hood and getting the gaps perfect. Now, while that was going on, the wheel wells were also trued up, and inner panels were made to support the hood and the fiberglass body.
And then it'll bolt in with the tabs. Fit nice and clean and pretty.
And then begin the long process of sanding and blocking and priming and sanding and blocking and sanding and blocking and sanding and blocking.
Working with fiberglass is a little more challenging than sheet metal. Never stops moving, especially you've got a car sitting in a 100-degree show all day long in the sun. It's going to expand and contract and move around. So it goes back to making sure all your substrates are quality substrates, everything's done properly. Just going through the process of working the glass, getting it perfect, is going to give you that perfection in a paint job.
Which means that they're almost ready to shoot some paint on that car. And once they're done with that, we're gonna roll it back in the shop here, finish it up, fire that sucker up, and go smoke some tires.
Working on the Cheetah's been awesome. It's a blessing, to do something like this for Stacey David. I mean, he's a legend in the industry, so I grew up watching him. It's humbling, it's really cool, and it's an experience that I'll never forget.
Restoring a vehicle. Done right, it can be one of the most rewarding things you can ever undertake. Done wrong, it can turn your life upside down. Shake the money out of your pockets and squeeze the sanity from your brain. Stacey David's Restoration Series is here to help you do it right, so you can keep your money and your sanity and enjoy the fruits of your labor. So grab a wrench and let's get cranking. Stacey David's Restoration Series, now streaming exclusively on Amazon Prime.
You know, a few weeks ago, we rolled in a 1972 Buick Riviera to show that there are cool alternative vehicles out there that can be had for a reasonable amount of money. And just as we thought, people went crazy for the old Rivieras, and they've been writing in telling us how they're looking for one themselves. But there was one guy on Gearz Nation that said he already had a Cherry 71 Riviera and wanted some suggestions on what to do with it. So we knew we had to go check this car out.
All across America, in thousands of garages, carports, and backyards, there sits a project that has become hindered, stalled, or halted by the lack of time, money, or expertise by the owner. Sometimes the project is so lopsided that the owner just needs to sell it and start over. Other times, all it needs is a kickstart to get it moving in the right direction again. That's where we come in. Gearz on the Road is brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
You know what? Damon Walls is a firefighter by trade, but the thing that really gets him fired up is the 71-72 Boattail Riviera.
Stacey, believe it or not, the reason I gravitate to specifically the Riviera is because as a child growing up, I remember being in this car. I remember me and my mom, my dad, and my brother, you know, going on trips. Even as recent as, I'm gonna say, when we moved here in '85, you know, I remember filling up, you know, the gas tank and stuff like that, and how my dad actually loved it himself.
However, it wasn't just childhood memories that attracted Damon to the Riviera. There was something else.
They're like, what is that? You know, and they look at it. Yeah, it's big and long, but gosh, it's beautiful. It's like, you know, once again, it's like a woman, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a pretty woman. You can't take your eyes off of her.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
definitely. My wife calls her Granny. I don't know why. She's like, where's Granny? I'm like.
So the quest was on to find the perfect car. And after dealing with a couple of rust buckets,
called a buddy of mine. I was like, hey man, I need a truck to go get this car. He's like, where are you going? I said, you know, we're going to Cincinnati. And so we drove all the way up and we got this car, and you look at something too quick and you buy too fast, and you're excited about it, so you don't really go over it like you should. And I think I made that mistake. Ended up being a lemon because it was rusted. It was a salt car. I was able to salvage a lot of parts out of that car, which I sent to Germany. I sent parts to the UK, Michigan, all over the United States. In the process, that frame was okay, and so I restored the frame. I sandblasted it, painted it, and put a whole new suspension underneath it. So, and I was able to recoup my money, believe it or not, back from that car to buy this one.
he found a one-owner 71 with only 60,000 original miles on it. 60,000 original miles.
62,000 original miles on it. 62,000 original miles.
Does it run good? It probably runs really well.
Yell at the door and we can start it up. No work done to the motor. But she drove it to the grocery store and she drove it to church.
Wow. And she was the original owner?
She was the original owner. She brought this car brand new off the lot.
Yeah.
And nobody drove it but her. I sat there and watched this car for a year before I was able to say, hey, you know what, this is the buyer.
Damien, that thing sounds awesome, man. However, as nice as the car is, Damon doesn't plan on leaving it stock. What are these wheels?
That's some garbage is what that is. That's some trash, man. That's some mess that I brought down from Ohio.
That's another era you don't want to talk about.
Nah, that's some trash. That's not my style right there at all. That's some trash. I want to go with a bigger rim, 18 in the front and 20 in the back, but I want to keep the same look. I want to definitely change the paint color.
What color are you going to go with?
I'm going to go with more of a, to match the interior, because I don't want to really change the interior. I'm gonna go with a champagne color. I have, like I said, knickknacks and whatnots.
Oh,
no.
Unfortunately, after looking through Damon's toolbox, we could see that he was pretty lacking in the tool department, especially to be taking on a restoration project.
The only sockets you've got?
Man, I got a whole lot of sockets. Look at this.
Okay.
What? Wrong door. Let me see. Yeah, man, I got a whole lot of sockets. Look at that. I got 3 there. I got 5 or 6 there. I got a lot of sockets, man. What are you talking about? That's good tools. That kind of tool you just throw in your truck and you roll.
So I'm glad I asked you, man. I just assumed you had a good set of sockets. Well,
I get by, man.
you do. I'm amazed, man. But he's got an English wheel.
Yeah.
So-
I got an English wheel, but I got no sockets.
English wheel with no sockets.
We figured that we could help him out with that. So we set him up with a new Cornwell toolbox and a nice selection of hand tools and restoration tools to help him do the work that needs to be done to build himself a one-of-a-kind Buick Riviera. We're going to set you up with the toolbox here,
Hey, awesome. I
and
appreciate it.
then we're going to load it up with some bodyworking tools and stuff.
Wow.
So when your buddies come by to help you,
Yeah.
make them use your tools.
Oh, definitely, man. I appreciate it, Stacey.
When Stacey David makes house calls in the big Gearz Nation truck, it makes for some pretty special moments. But if they can't come to your garage, the next best thing to do is check out the stuff they have online to help you out. Things like DVDs, wiring and build books, apparel and fender covers are just some of the things you'll find to help you with your project or make a great gift for that certain car nut in your life. If you're ready to get out there, build something, and then go smoke the tires on it, StaceyDavid.com can help you do that. Tool Tech, brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
If you're into working on cars and trucks, you know that eventually you're going to have to do some body work. And most people cringe at the thought of that because it can be really time-consuming and tedious. But it's really not that bad if you've got the right tools to help you out. So today we're going to walk through the basic body tools that everybody should have in their box. Okay, first of all, if you're working on bodies, you know there's going to be a bunch of dents and damage that you're going to have to fix. So the first thing you need is a nice assortment of hammers and dollies. Now you're going to want to get the biggest assortment that you can afford with all kinds of different hammer faces and ends on there, as well as different sizes of dollies. This will give you plenty of options when you have to get in behind a door or something and hammer out a dent. Now obviously, sanding body fillers and primers is where all the time goes into prepping for a paint job. And this is where you want to invest in some air tools. Now, if you can only afford 2, I recommend getting a DA sander like this, which is great for feather edging fillers and doing small areas, and then a long sander like this. This is great for getting nice straight panels. These 2 sanders will take a ton of time off prepping for a paint job. Now, even as good as those are, eventually you're gonna have to hand sand. So you're gonna need some sanding blocks, same thing. You're going to get a lot of different shapes so you can not only do long panels, but also get into all those little nooks and crannies that you're gonna find on a body. Now obviously, if we're talking about paint, you gotta have a way to shoot paint on the vehicle. And ideally, you wanna have 3 spray guns. A cheap one for shooting on primers and surfacers and thick materials, a really nice one for shooting on your colors and clears, and then a smaller gun for doing detail work in trunks and door jambs and things like that. Now, if you can only afford 1 spray gun, get the best that you can afford and just swap out the tips for the thicker materials. The final tool that you're gonna need is a buffer. If you want your paint to lay like glass, you gotta buff it out. So you're gonna need a quality buffer, not a grinder. There is a difference, because a buffer has got a variable speed on it where you can roll those RPMs right down to get the right speed so you don't burn the paint. Also, you're gonna need an assortment of buffing pads so you can bring out the gloss of that paint. Now, as you can see, this isn't a lot of tools and they're not real expensive, but if you invest in these and put in some of your time and effort, believe me, you can do a show quality paint job in your garage.
Now, quick tip, brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn.
You know, one thing that everybody's talking about these days is the barn find. You know, the diamond in the rough that you find in a barn or garage. It's been sitting there for years and you get it for cheap. And they're out there. I mean, this is a prime example. This belonged to some friends of mine. It was sitting in their garage in New Jersey since 1973. But the mistake that people make with a barn find is that they immediately want to get it started and running. And with something like this, you don't want to do that. You've got to go through some things before you try it. Number one, all the fluids. You need to go through the fuel system. You need to change the oil. You need to get new coolant in it. And then you've got to go through the electrical, because you don't want to put fire to something like this where you've got bare wires that mice have been chewing on, or fuel leaks, because it'll catch on fire and you'll burn it and your garage to the ground. I've seen it happen. So if you found a diamond in the rough like this, you want to keep it a diamond. You don't want to turn it into a lump of coal. So go through the fluids, go through the electrical, then start it.
If you've got a cool project and would like to show millions of other gearheads what you're working on, you need to join Gearz Nation. This is a free, interactive online community of auto enthusiasts that will allow you to learn from, share with, and encourage others, and at the same time, show off your project. There are also premium memberships available for access to special merchandise and the entire Gearz catalog. If you're into mechanical things, you're welcome on Gearz Nation. And who knows, you might even see your project on TV. And now, Parts Bin.
You know, everybody knows how important wiring is to a project. And with hot rodders putting modern engines and accessories into all kinds of things, it's important that your wiring stays up to date. So, Painless Performance has come out with this Pro Series wiring harness to do just that. Now check this out. At first glance, it looks like a typical painless system with a state-of-the-art fuse block and extra long wires that are marked the whole length, telling you exactly where they go. So it's almost impossible to hook this up wrong. Then it's got the front harness, and it's got auxiliary harnesses, and it's got a harness for the alternator. But it also has all kinds of fittings and terminals, and you've got grounding straps, and you've got all the grommets, and you have interior lights, and you have marker light sockets, and I mean, you've got everything here right down to the electrical tape. About the only thing it doesn't have is somebody to help you do it. That's on you. But with a kit like this, Painless has actually made wiring a vehicle about as simple as you can possibly make it. You know, when Holley came out with the Sniper EFI that was designed to bolt in place of a 4-barrel carburetor, everybody went crazy. Everybody except the millions of you out there that had a 2-barrel carburetor on your vehicle, not a 4. And you let Holley know you wanted a 2-barrel version of this. Well, Holley heard you, and they came out with this Sniper EFI 2-barrel version. Now look at this. You have a 2-barrel throttle body that's designed to bolt right in place of your old nasty carburetor. And you've got the injectors already inside, you've got the ECM inside, everything's wired up. So all you do is bolt it on, run your wires, fire it up, the thing self-tunes, and you're done. Best part is, this will handle up to 350 horsepower. The big boy will handle up to 650 horsepower. So, if you've ever looked at your old carburetor and thought, it's time to eliminate that, well, you're thinking like a sniper. And the only place you can get a sniper is at Holley. If you've ever spent much time in a parking lot, then you have experienced the dreaded door or shopping cart scuff. You know what I'm talking about. Things like this, where somebody has run something into your paint and not damaged it enough to where it's taken the paint off and you have to do paint repair, but it's deep enough to where you can't scratch it off or you can't get it off with a polish. So what do? Well, a trick that a lot of detailers use is this stuff called Erasol from E2. Now, as you can see, this is a detailing kit that has a special compound that will allow you to easily remove deposited paint, minor scratches, tree sap, bugs, pretty much anything that becomes embedded in your paint. It also removes without scratching or hazing the clear coat, and it doesn't require additional polish because it cleans and polishes all in one step. With the cost of detailing services these days, you might as well do it yourself. And having a tub of E2 Erasol in your glove box can help you do that.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Paul Wilcox from Trabuco Canyon, California. And his project is a Disneyland Autopia Mark 7. Now, I know you're wondering what that is, but did you ever go to Disneyland when you were a kid and drive those little Corvette-looking cars? That was the Autopia ride. And he always loved that as a kid. Well, when Disneyland sold those cars, he said that his wife bought one of them for his birthday. Now, he said it hung out in his garage for a few years until his kids bugged him enough to get to it and build a chassis. So he said he dug into it. Now, he also says this was his first real welding and fabricating job. But as you can see here, he built a frame out of square tubing. Then he dropped in a 13 horsepower engine with an electric start. And then he built a brake system from a wrecked quad. And then he said he threw in a bunch of other stuff that he got off of eBay. And what he ended up with is this cool little Corvette little go-kart thing. Now, he says it'll do 30 miles an hour, which is up quite a bit from the original 8 miles an hour from when it was under Disneyland's rule. And he says, man, he drives it all around and everybody loves it. Man, what a great project. I would love to get one of those. So to recognize such a cool project, we hooked up with our buddies at Woodward Fab. We're going to give you one of these big bench vices, so you got something to pound on. Also, we're going to give you one of our new Gearz t-shirts, because you're obviously a real gearhead. Then we're going to give you one of our book packages, which is the electrical wiring book to help you understand electrical wiring on an engine. And we're going to give you our project planning book, so you can keep track of everything that you've done on that project. And we're going to give you one of the Purple Bicycle books, because you're going to get a kick out of that. It'll take you back to the days at Disney. We're also going to give you a gift card from LMC Trucks so you can find some other parts to use on that project. All right, that wraps it up for us today, which means that it's time for you to get out there and start working on something. Me, I'm going to go see if I can find an Autopia car from Disneyland. Don't you dare go out and get on eBay and try to beat me to it. Watch the credits. I'll see you later. All right, let's go!